2018, he had the Chinese constitution changed so that he could be president for life.
If you had asked me 20 years ago what will happen to China, I would have said, well, over time, the Great Firewall will break down. Of course, people will get access to social media, they'll get access to Google. Eventually, you'll become a much more democratic place, with free expression and lots of Western values. And the last time I checked, that has not happened. In fact, technology has become a tool of control. And as China has gone through this amazing period of growth, wealth, and openness in certain ways, there has not been the democratic transformation I thought. And it may turn out that, in fact, technology is a better tool for authoritarian governments than it is for democratic governments.
To dominate the world in AI, President Xi is depending on Chinese tech to lead the way. While companies like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent are growing more powerful and competitive, they're also beginning to have difficulty accessing American technology and are racing to develop their own. With a continuing trade war and growing distrust, the long-time argument for engagement between the two countries has been losing ground.
I've seen more and more of my colleagues move from a position when they thought, well, if we just keep engaging China, the lines between the two countries will slowly converge, whether it's in economics, technology, politics. And the transformation where they now think they're diverging. So in other words, the whole idea of engagement is coming under question. And that casts an entirely different light on technology. Because if you're diverging and you're heading into a world of antagonism, conflict possibly, then suddenly technology is something that you don't want to share. You want to sequester to protect your own national interest. And I think the tipping point moment we are at now, which is what is casting the whole question of things like artificial intelligence and technological innovation into a completely different framework, is that if in fact China and the US are in some way fundamentally antagonistic to each other, then we're in a completely different world.
In the age of AI, a new reality is emerging. That with so much accumulated investment and intellectual power, the world is already dominated by just two AI superpowers. That's the premise of a new book written by Kai-Fu Lee.
666 or Jesus on the forehead.
Hi. Chili, nice to meet you. Look at all these dog ears. I love that.
You like that?
But I don't like you didn't buy the book. You borrowed it.
I couldn't find it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And you're coming to my talk?
Of course.
Oh, hi.
I did my homework, I'm telling you.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Laurie, can you get this gentleman a book?
In his book and in life, the computer scientist come venture capitalist walks a careful path. Criticism of the Chinese government is avoided, while capitalist success is celebrated.
Okay, thanks.
Now, with the rise of the two superpowers, he wants to warn the world of what's coming.
Are you the new leaders?
If we're not the new leaders, we're pretty close. Thank you very much.
Never, he writes, has the potential for human flourishing been higher, or the stakes of failure greater.
So, if one has to say who's ahead, I would say today, China is quickly catching up. China actually began its big push in AI only 2.5 years ago, when the AlphaGo Lee Sedol match became the Sputnik moment.
He says he believes that the two AI superpowers should lead the way and work together to make AI a force for good. If we do, we may have a chance of getting it right.
If we do a very good job in the next 20 years, AI will be viewed as an age of enlightenment. Our children and their children will see AI as serendipity, that AI is here to liberate us from having to do routine jobs and push us to do what we love and push us to think what it means to be human.
But what if humans mishandled this new power? Kai-Fu Lee understands the stakes. After all, he invested early in Megvii, which is now on the U.S. blacklist. He says he's reduced his stake and doesn't speak for the company. Asked about the government using AI for social control, he chose his words carefully.
AI is a technology that can be used for good and for evil. So how do governments limit themselves in, on the one hand, using this AI technology and the database to maintain a safe environment for its citizens, but not encroach on individuals' rights and privacies? That, I think, is also a tricky issue, I think, for every country. I think every country will be tempted to use AI probably beyond the limits to which that you and I would like the government to use.
Emperor Yao devised the game of Go to teach his son discipline, concentration, and balance. Over 4,000 years later, in the age of AI, those words still resonate with one of its architects.
So AI can be used in many ways that are very beneficial for society. But the current...
Hey, this video is a response to Bruce, who was on my last live stream. He posed a question towards the end of the stream, and I didn't know how to answer it right away. I knew that I knew what I knew, but at the same time, I just figured that no matter what I said to Bruce at that moment, that it was not going to be taken well. And so, two things. One is, I don't think Bruce was ready to receive information at that point. And so it would have been pointless. Like, no matter what I said, I just felt like it wouldn't have gone over well. So it was pointless. That's the way I look at it. And then the other part of it is that I know sometimes when people get in discussions about theology or their religious views, etc., or whatever word you want to use to describe it, spirituality, whatever, is it can get heated, because what happens is people get in this thing where they need to prove that they're right. And when it happens, like, the spirit of pride takes over, and so I didn't want to fall into that category. And even if I found the words eloquently, I knew that Bruce wasn't ready to receive it at that moment, and that's why I didn't respond right away. I was just like, "Thanks, Bruce," whatever, because I didn't want to.
I don't need to be saved by Jesus Christ,
discourage him, but at the same time, I just knew there wasn't a way to address it in a way it would be productive at that moment. So let's talk about it. It's been on my mind. I've been able to go to sleep anyway for some reason, so it hasn't been the best day for me. So I thought, well, I'll just talk about this, and since I can't sleep anyway. Okay, so Bruce was on my last live stream, making the assertions that, at least in my opinion, insinuated that white people are the root of all evil in the world. If it's not exactly that, maybe I'm mischaracterizing his point of view, I apologize. But for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to try to paint the picture with as few brushstrokes as possible. So if it's not that exactly, it's somewhere in that ballpark. Regardless of what he's going to characterize it as, it's something to that effect. And you can go listen to that last live stream and if you want, and judge for yourself. He was making this point within the context of his views on religion. I think Bruce has this kind of like viewpoint where it's like Aboriginal or something, or it's New Agey or something, and he like kind of combines that in a confusing way, tries to like tie Christianity into the thing, like it's all put these different lead. In any event, I hope this scripture helps you better. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Now, I am far from perfect, but I believe that Jesus Christ is the truth and the only way to reach salvation. So I'm concerned for you, Bruce. I've stood up for you before about the same
Truth
thing
is
you
not
attacked
in
me on.
us. Well, this
I
you
am
can
worried for
believe
you
your King
that
James.
Jesus loves you.
I am my
and
truth.
I'm sorry if I failed you as a vessel to plant a seed. In any event, I hope this scripture helps you better to understand sin within the context that you presented the question to me.
I am truth.
To answer your question, here's scripture
Bruce.
from the actual Bible. This is John 1:8. Here's a quote for you, Bruce. When you asked me if I have sin and I don't know God or whatever your point was. This is from John 1:8. You can look it up. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us.
The truth is within. Heaven within you. Shangri-La, whatever name you want to call it. The land of milk and honey. It's your way for freedom.
Hebrew Israelites, right? I was listening to them, and I had one guy, they were arguing, and I tried to tell them, I'm thinking there's probably some Hebrew Israelite blood in me. That's to some degree, because I would imagine that's maybe why the Lord woke certain people up to these truths based on, I don't know what my lineage is, right? And if there's at least a little bit of Hebrew Israelite in me, and he wants to save me, and he's showing me these truths because of that, well then so be it. But okay, they take the argument back to Esau and Jacob, and every white man to them is Esau, and they're condemned, and they've held the black people in slavery for X amount of years, and 400 years is what they like to say. But my thing is if you believe in the mud flood, right, which I do, that in 1492, what they're hoping this land will be restored to, and that this land will be given back to them, the glory that it was before 1492. Well, I believe everything in the history was changed in the early 1900s, and that we all have been in a form of slavery, and that the Lord is not going to condemn me. Like, how much of me is to be saved and how much is not if it's in my blood? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
They don't know the whole past either. It's like, how, if it's based on, okay, like we look at the horse and buggy thing, right?
Yeah. If we're going to deify one race, at least you should show the whole thing. So, like, there's it was about this time of year was on, but it was like a little bit later, Christmas Eve, right? And Christmas is what it is. It's pagan. I got it, right? But like, it was right on Christmas Eve, and this black family that lived down the street from me, and I'm not picking on black people because most white people are the ones that are serial killers or whatever. So